gentlemen, welcome back to TGTV, and more specifically, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a very special episode. Today, I'm at Bicester Heritage, and I'm also with this McLaren Mercedes SLR. This is a car I've been wanting to get my hands on for a long time. Bit of housekeeping first then. Why am I at Bicester Heritage? Well, on the 24th of September, right here at Bicester Heritage, is the next Historics auctions, and this very car right here will be going under the hammer with Historics. If you've watched my channel for a while now, you'll know all about Historics, and of course there are a number of other lots coming up. This is lot number 183, and I'm going to be getting to grips with it very shortly, because from a personal perspective, this is a car I've been wanting to drive for a long time, because I was actually in the market for one of these quite a while ago when I bought my SLS, and this may well tickle me into adding one of these to my collection, or even having a bid on the 24th of September. So let's have a little walk around first. I'll explain why I love this car so much, why this particular car is so special, the collaboration between McLaren and Mercedes when they used to do things like this, what I think the future is going to hold, and more importantly, how it drives. So let's crack on. So then, as you all know, this car was a joint collaboration between Mercedes and McLaren. They're both Mercedes and McLaren badging on it. It was sold between 2003 and 2009. Now, originally, they wanted to produce 3,500 units of this car, but actually in total by the end of production they only produced 2,175 of them. Now the moniker SLR actually stands for Sport Like Rennsport, which translated is sport light racing, as opposed to the SLS, which is the super light sport. All very confusing and sounds actually very similar. This car, much like the SLS, was built in homage to the 300 SL for the SLS and 300 SLR for this particular car here. So harking back to a very important and cool part of Mercedes history. Now, back when it was new, it was around £315,000, and this was actually built in coupe, roadster and eventually speedster body styles, with the latter being limited edition. Interestingly, this was actually designed by Gordon Murray. Many of you will know Gordon these days as the designer of the T50 and T30 Gordon Murray automotive supercars, but he actually obviously also designed the McLaren F1. Lots and lots of heritage in this car. The car was assembled in England, Surrey, in Woking, actually at McLaren's Technology Centre, and it is powered by a 5.4 litre supercharged engine punting out 626 PS, which is about 617 brake horsepower. 0 to 60 in about 3.5 seconds. And the cool thing about this, well, one of the cool things, is obviously the doors, which you've seen, not to be confused with gull wing doors. The hinges sort of down there as opposed to on the roof, but you've also got side exit exhausts, which are so iconic. And the reason for that is, other than looking cool, that's not actually why they did it. The reason they did that was the underbody on this car is completely flat. You've actually got a diffuser there, and they said, well, the designer said it would mess with the aero too much if you put exhaust at the back. So that's why they ended up poking out the side. And the only other kind of modern production car I can think of that's got exhaust out the side like that, albeit towards the back, is the G63. So absolutely love that design element on this car. So the car does often get compared to the SLS, but there are very few similarities between this car and the SLS. This was obviously produced a little bit before the SLS, but the transmission in this is actually a 5-speed automatic gearbox. And the reason Mercedes chose this 5-speed automatic gearbox is because of the power that this thing punts out. The amount of torque this punts out with this V8 supercharged, they needed a gearbox that was pretty much bulletproof, and bulletproof this thing is. We'll get to see how that shifts very shortly, and I'll be interested to see how it compares to the box that's fitted to my SLS, which actually is the same gearbox, don't argue with me, as is in the 458, just with a little bit less PSI running through it. Apparently that's true, so don't have a go at me. Right, more aero chat then. The SLR features active aerodynamics, so you'll see on the rear flap here, that goes up at speed, and hopefully we will get that up out on the track there very shortly. And the spoiler will actually change its angle as well, allowing you to have different levels of downforce. Very clever car. At a set speed, the elevation on that wing actually goes to 10 degrees and 15 degrees in the 722, which is the limited variant of this, and up to 30 degrees and 35 in the 722 variant. Very nerdy stuff, but if you're into spoilers, that's all very important. You've actually got carbon ceramic brakes as standard on this, and it's kind of a brake-by-wire system. A lot of these cars actually get kind of maligned for having expensive brakes. That's one of the things people say about these cars. They've got huge running costs on them, which actually There are specialists that will do most of these things by now, but a new set of brakes on this, because they're early carbon ceramics, are not cheap. They came with carbon ceramics as standard. As you can see in here, these wheels are actually pretty small, but the brakes are filling the entire wheel. The car is actually built with a carbon fiber reinforced plastic construction, which means it keeps weight quite down, but actually the total curb weight of this car is 1,750 kilos, which I actually don't think is too bad, and in modern car standards that really isn't bad at all. Another little factoid for you all, ladies and gentlemen, is that when this car was produced, it was the fastest automatic car available in production. There we go, there's another fact. As I said in my intro, this is lot number 183 at the upcoming Historics auctions. I think all that we need to do now is put these incredible doors down. Very, very light doors actually. Let's get that down and hop in the car. One thing I do want to show you, this is actually how you get out of the car, and these seats here are carbon fiber reinforced seats with venting behind them as well. Very, very cool in here. And actually the way you start this car, you've got the flap underneath the gear stick here. You flap that up, but you actually also have to put a key in as well. Turn it 2 turns and fairly promptly flap that up and press the start button in there. It's like a fighter jet. So we're going to fire that up in a sec. We're going to give it a listen, and then I'm going to go out and get on the road. But I do love that. That's so cool. Right then, here we go. Seatbelt on, door down. These doors are just so light. And I noticed they've got bows on them as well. So, 2 turns of the key. You get the dials kicking off. Things are whirring. Let's get the aircon down. There we go. Flip that up. Quite smooth. There's a lot of rumbling, but you don't kind of get jolted with it when it turns on. Old school handbrake, love that. Very, very cool. The gear stick then, you actually have to push it to the side and then kind of wiggle it on the way down. You've got reverse, then you've got neutral, and then you've got drive. You can knock it side to side to actually change the gears, almost kind of in like Tiptronic fashion. We're just going to leave it in auto for now, and you've obviously got paddles here as well, which actually are buttons. The paddles on the back of the wheel are buttons. We'll leave those alone for the time being, so let's get moving then. It does feel a little bit SLS. I can only assume that's because we've got loads of aluminium in front of me here, a bonnet that you can't see the end of, and a big fat Mercedes steering wheel here as well. So we'll go for a little poodle around first and foremost. So what you've got to remember is this came out in an era where the Enzo was launched and the Carrera GT was launched. They're all sort of 600 plus brake horsepower, kind of iconic pinnacle cars of their day, and this car was actually brought out to almost compete with them. Mercedes originally designed the car, and then Gordon Murray got hold of it, and he actually turned Mercedes' kind of vision into a car that he saw competing with the likes of the Carrera GT, with the likes of the Enzo. Completely different type of car. It is a tourer, not a kind of stripped out, lightweight race pedigree car. But what Gordon actually did is he moved the engine back a meter, and actually also within half a meter of the front axle as well, and he changed where the fuel tank was located as well. So what Gordon did was really, really clever, and actually really changed this car for the good, and actually turned it into something that could compete with, let's say, the big boys, but McLaren are big boys really. Why were Mercedes and McLaren making cars together? Well, Mercedes actually owned 40% of the McLaren group, and this car was a collab. We're going past a rather famous shed there. At low speeds though, this car is pretty comfortable, to be fair. The steering is quite heavy. I would say it's a little bit more race car-esque than the SLS. It does feel a little bit more raring to go and a little bit more visceral, and the steering's definitely a lot heavier than the SLS. You've got loads of cool little reminders on this car, McLaren involved. I actually really like the blue dials right in front of you. They've got the McLaren logo on them. And these seats are very comfortable as well, with just the right amount of padding, just the right amount of support. You feel like you could go around a bend at
silly speeds, and you wouldn't get thrown out the window. Right, I think it's time to find a little bit of open road. Just driving around Bicester Heritage, really. Such a cool location for the Historics auction. If you haven't been to this place before, even if you don't want to bid on anything at the Historics auction on the 24th of September, I recommend just coming down, because the things you see popping out of green shutters here, you won't see anywhere else in the UK. It really is an amazing, amazing place. And there's just guys working on old cars all over the place. MG Metros, old racing cars. It's hell. And actually, one of the storage units I just went into to get this car, there's F40s in there, there's an old Formula 1 car. It is an absolute joke, and I'm actually considering potentially putting some of my collection out here in storage over the winter, because some of the facilities here are absolutely fantastic. So yeah, even if you're not going to be bidding this time round, come and check out the auction and come and check out Bicester Heritage. Right, let's head out onto some open space here. Here we go then. See how long it takes for me to get thrown out. You've got V8 there, and you also, oh, those carbon ceramics are good. You've got V8, and you've got supercharger wine as well. I don't know if you can hear that on these crummy mics that I've got. It steers well, and I think what they do with the SLS and with the SLR so well, they put the wheels on the corners of the car so it doesn't boat around. It's actually very, very direct. You don't know at high speed that this thing's got basically a 2-meter bonnet on it. Got quite a small track today. We've got some Morgans. We've got some Morgans out on the track, so I don't want to run any of those over. Get on the brakes. Oh, it's very nice. Very nice indeed. Got double right-hander here. It corners flat. They've done some magic work with this. It does not feel as much as it weighs. Now, values. We all like talking about values. The price of this car, estimates around £240,000, I believe. Where do I see values for these going in the future? I know Manny Cushbin absolutely raves about these things, and he's got 35,000 of them. I do think there'll be good news in the future. This is kind of a unicorn car that won't be replicated again. Mercedes and McLaren do not work together anymore, obviously. So I do think this is from a really cool era. It's a unicorn car. It is your CGT era car. It's your Enzo era car. And I do think it will be good news long term. I don't know how long you'll have to hold on to it to make serious money, but I don't see any reason that one of these will not end up $500,000 plus down the line. It is an unbelievable piece of design. You've got the Sterling Moss links there as well. I think it's good, and it did come from an era where McLaren and Mercedes were wiping the floor with people in Formula 1 as well. I don't think it's a bad place to put money. Will I be adding one to my collection? If you've seen any of my recent videos, you'll realise that I'm not throwing the cash around as much as I once did. And buying this on the 24th of September probably for me would be a sackable offence with my other half. So I probably won't, but I do want to add one of these to the collection at some point. That little drive there, I mean, this belongs to someone else, so I've got to be really careful with it. And obviously it's going to be going up for auction, so I can't destroy it. But I do think this will be a car that I really would like to add to my collection. I think a silver one of these with my SLS would be a super, super cool combo. And actually just sitting in here now, you could use this thing every day. In actual fact, I do like the simplicity of the controls. The aircon's fantastic. You've got comfort, manual and sport here, and you can also test the wing on this little slot here in the middle. And you've got your audio, which isn't the best thing in the world, and I actually think it's quite quirky and quite cool. That would probably need upgrading at some point, but leaving it OEM would be the best bet. Anyway, I think that's it. I've got to go before I get told to get out of here and get thrown out. But thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed this little, my first drive actually in an SLR. And I'll see you all very soon. Don't forget, this car is lot number 183 in September the 24th. Historic auctions here at Bicester Heritage. I may well be here for this auction. So if you're coming along, I will see you around and I'll see what I bring down. For now, thank you very much. And I'll see you all very soon. Bye.